Today we're going to measure some stair treads using the eLaser Pro. So we're going to be establishing this outer wall as a plane, and then we're going to measure the steps going up to be able to get the rise and run of each tread. And we'll also go ahead and measure locations of some of these posts in case you wanted to use that as a helping in the definition of how your railing may be designed, etc. So the first thing we're going to do is measure 3 points to define the plane. I'm going to take 3 points out here on this wall surface. Of course, if this is a 3D or circular stairs where we don't have a plane, we can actually just measure 3D lines that would follow the actual, riser and step and work our way up that way. It just depends on what we have for our configuration. So with that plane established, I'm going to go ahead and measure some lines. And I'll start out with the floor, just giving us that as a reference. And then we're going to go up the riser. Then along the step. Next riser. And step. Now, based on the position of the laser, I cannot measure this step directly. I could move the laser through in the room, or we have this offset tool that will let me measure 2 points, 2 targets, and it will actually measure the point that's at the tip. And so I'll be able to do this a couple times to give me the position or location of that step. So in the software, we're going to tell it that we're using the target, and it says measure the first position. So I'm going to move the laser and I'll zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to grab this target and shift a little bit left. Now we'll measure. Now it says measure the other end of the tool. Scroll down, and now we'll hit that target. Take a point. And now it's sent the point to the measurement software. Now I'm going to move the target so that we can develop a second point on the step. Come in here and we'll pick make sure we're in the tool. And we'll pick the top point, measure, and then we need to measure the next. So we'll zoom in, grab this location, and measure that point. So that step line has now been generated. We can now access the riser directly, so we'll measure that. Come back over here, we'll go to our offset tool, and we're going to measure first the top point. We'll move a little bit left. One more. Looks good. Take a data point. Now it asks us to measure the bottom target. We'll hit that. Measure. Gives us a point. Now we'll go ahead and move the offset tool again. We'll come back to our function. And we're going to measure the top target. Measure the point. Then the bottom target. Measure that. Okay, so go ahead and minimize the software. So now we can see how the geometry is being created. So just going to form the steps. We can also go in here and measure kind of the depth of the steps. So I'm going to take and measure a point on the opposing wall. And it gives me a little over 47 inches was the depth. So now I can tell it I want to extrude everything. And we're going to insert that measured depth. So I can now look at this as an isometric. Let's spin this around a little bit so you have a little bit better view. Okay. Now we can auto scale that. And we can also go in here and measure a couple of the post locations. So if I go in here and I establish a plane, I'll select the first step, and I can tell it, well, I want to measure a rectangle, and I'm going to measure the two opposing corners on a post. And it builds that post position. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and establish the next step. as a plane and measure rectangles on it. I'll go ahead and bring up the video so you can see kind of how I'm measuring that. Minimize our video again, and we can see the geometry being built on that plane. So as you can see, the process is we just move from plane to plane, adding features. Obviously, we can go further up the steps, doing more steps, and we can add these different positions of the posts. We can also measure other features within the space that we may need relative to what we're trying to achieve.